We are super excited to introduce live consults. Consulting a teacher one-to-one or booking a private tutor to run through a question is often inconvenient, expensive, and limited. That's why we built live consults. Live consults lets you dive into a personalized session with your own AI tutor to run through any syllabus-aligned question step by step. Now let's take a look at how it works. So I've got my iPad over here, so as you can see, I've already preloaded a question here on forces, which is within the subject of physics. Now, on the canvas over here, we're going to notice that everything should look familiar. It looks just like an exam-style question. For today, let's maybe dive into one specific part that we're going to launch for the consult. Now, over here, I've got part A, part 2, which is on showing the amplitude, and we've got a learn button over here. Now, let's go ahead and click on this learn button and see what happens. As you can see, we now have chat mode and voice mode that is loaded up. Chat mode is basically just chat, while the voice mode is where we are going to be getting the full experience and what I'm going to be showing today. Let's go ahead and select on this voice mode where we're going to talk with our tutor in real time, and let's see what he has to say.
Hello, I'm Mr. Gabriel. I can see you're working on finding the amplitude of this spring oscillator system. Let me ask you a couple of things to understand where you're at. First, when the problem tells us the mass passes through the equilibrium position 200 times per minute, what do you think that information tells us about the motion? What quantity related to the oscillation can we calculate from that?
Okay, great. So as you guys can tell, Mr. Gabriel just gave us kind of like a quick insight into this question, but more importantly, to start with some diagnostic questions. So as you guys can see, we have this entire consult layout over here, and we have this tap to speak button that I'm going to be clicking on to reply to him. I'm not quite sure. Could you highlight the variables for me? And once I'm done talking, I can simply just tap on it again.
Perfect. I've highlighted the key variables for you. Let me break this down simply. You have 3 pieces of information here. First, the mass is 0.42 kilograms. That's your M. Second, the mass passes through equilibrium 200 times per minute. Think about this. That tells us about the frequency or the period of the oscillation. And third, we need to find the amplitude. Now here's my question for you. If the object passes through the equilibrium 200 times per minute, how many times does it pass through in 1 second? Once you figure that out, what do you think that number represents?
Okay, great. As you can tell, Mr. Gabriel has basically given us a bunch of information, but more importantly, has highlighted these 3 variables over here. Alright, so before we get started, you will notice first that there is this roadmap panel on the top left. Now, not to worry, we're going to be covering this later. The more important part is Mr. Gabriel's panel down here. And this is where we're going to notice a transcript icon where we can actually read through the entire conversation that we're having in real time as well. Now the tap to speak button, like I mentioned, will be for us to basically tap at any point in time to either interrupt or ask Mr. Gabriel any questions that we may have. Let's close this for now and let's go over to our drawing board. Now this drawing board is scrollable, so we can basically go ahead and add more space if we need to. But let's go ahead and get started with the question. Alright, so 1 minute equals to 200, so therefore 60 seconds will likewise be equals to 200. So 1 second equals to 200 over 60. Okay, let's go ahead and ask Mr. Gabriel. I have written my workings, is it correct?
Excellent. I can see you've started working on this. Good thinking, converting the 200 per minute into passes per second. Let me ask you a clarifying question. You've written 1 second equals 200 over 60. That calculation is correct for getting passes per second. But now, think carefully. What does that number represent in terms of oscillation? Is it the frequency or is it something else like the period?
Okay, I think that it is going to be frequency, so let's write it over here. And let's ask Mr. Gabriel again. So he knows everything that we're doing on the drawing board, so that's pretty cool. Is it frequency?
Actually, I need to help you think about this more carefully. Let me ask you, if the mass passes through point P 200 times per minute, how many complete oscillations does it make in 1 minute? Think about it this way. In one complete oscillation, how many times does the mass pass through the equilibrium point?
Okay, so I guess this is wrong. So this should be period, and let's ask him again. Okay, so I guess it is period. I'm not too sure how many times, but let's get started with the question.
Perfect. I've mapped out 4 clear steps for us. Let's start with step 1. You correctly calculated that in 1 second, the mass passes through equilibrium 200 over 60 times, which is about 3.33 passes per second. Now here's the key insight. Remember, it passes through twice per complete oscillation. So, what is the period t, the time for one complete oscillation?
Okay, great. So as you guys can tell, Mr. Gabriel has listed out 4 of these distinct steps over here that he's going to guide us through as you go about answering this question so that we're able to answer it correctly as well. Nice. So that is about all for the live consults. Towards the end of it, once we have finished, we will also get the model answer and we'll be able to move on to the subsequent parts alongside Mr. Gabriel's help. So that's live consults. Live consults isn't about getting answers faster, but it's about understanding the entire process of how to go about approaching a question so that you truly understand and are able to apply it to any foreseeable question that you may encounter in the exams. So go ahead and get started by trying today on the Pallo app. You can download the app from the App Store just by simply typing in Pallo, P-A-L-L-O, or you can simply search it up on the website as well using pallo.ai. We hope you try it and give it a shot.